Hey, Pokedad fan club, it's me, Pokedad, and today we are going to do Celestial Storm. I'm not going to call it a set review. I like to call it buy, sell, or hold. And we're not going to look at every single card. We'll just look at highlights. My goal is to try to keep this under 30 minutes. I know that that's probably not going to happen, but I'm going to try my best. Because I know that there's been a lot of set reviews that have been multiple hours, some as long as 4 hours. But I didn't want to do my thoughts on the set until we actually knew what all cards were going to be in it. So with that, let's get right into it. I'm just on PokeBeach, and I'm just going through the cards, and I'll be kind of highlighting ones I see. Victory Bell here with Fragrance Trap. Seems like a really good idea because it's like a Pokemon catcher every single turn. The problem is first of all, it's a stage 2. Force the Giant Plants is banned. And there's not really like this ability isn't good enough to want to put a stage 2 in your deck. Now, if it also had a decent attack, there's a possibility that it could be used, but 80 damage for 3 energy attachments, flip a coin and you might get burned, which is really just ultimately 100 damage for 3 energies. It's just not worth it. So this is definitely a sell card. If you get it traded away, get some trainers from it. Scyther, we'll talk about that later as we get into Scizor GX. But one thing I do like is the twin play. Search your deck for 2 Scyther and play them on your bench, and then shuffle your deck. So this could potentially see play if Scizor GX is any good. We got Ariados here. Reactive Poison, 20 damage. This attack does 50 more for each special condition affecting your opponent's active Pokemon. I could see this possibly being decent if you could find a way to get 3 special conditions and a choice band. And it's only 1 colorless, so I guess it could see play, but the 70 HP for a stage 1 just really makes it a glass cannon at best. And I don't know, it seems like a lot of setup, so I would probably sell this card, trade it away if possible. Next thing we got is Sceptile here. He's got this ability. Each of your opponent with grass energy attached receives no damage from the attacks of your opponent's Ultra Beast, which that can be pretty good, except for the fact that I don't think Ultra Beasts are as prevalent as we think they are in the meta. Yeah, we've got Beast Box, and so certainly a card like this could totally would be a hard counter to that deck. And Buzzwole is pretty good, but it's kind of seeing decline now that Strong Energy will rotate after rotation. Um, and uh, and so really, even though Ultra Beasts are seeing some play, I just don't know that Sceptile is going to be worth putting into your deck, especially since it's a stage 2. Powerful Storm does 20 times damage, 20 times the number of energy attached to your Pokemon in play. This could be decent, maybe, but I don't know. I think if you have Sceptile, if you get a Sceptile in pre-release, you probably want to hold on to it, just because if Ultra Beasts really do become popular, maybe it could see some play. But I think overall, I wouldn't go out of my way to buy this card. Next thing is we're looking at C-Dot, Nuzleaf, and Shiftry GX. I'm kind of torn on this card, so let's get a little closer look at it. It's 240 HP. The first attack is for 1 grass, does 40 damage, and then your opponent is confused. So it's kind of like Espeon GX. Extrasensory does 90 damage, and then additional 90 if you have the same number of cards as your opponent. I want to come back to that attack in a minute. And then Fandemonium GX for a grass and a colorless. Double colorless, shuffle one of your opponent's Pokemon and all cards attached to it into their deck. So let's talk about the good things about this card. I think all 3 attacks are decent. Alright. The first attack is kind of like Espeon, but you get 40 damage instead of just 30, and you're going to confuse them, so it is potential that they may not even be able to um, attack you the following turn if they flip tails on the confusion flip, if they're and they can't retreat out of it. And with Floatstone leaving the format, that might be a good confusion, might be a stronger um, special condition. So that seems decent. 90 plus 90 is 180 for a grass and a double colorless. The only problem I hate about this is that if you are playing this with like Copycat or Judge, once you play your supporter, you're not allowed to play any more cards for the turn. And in the early game, that really can hinder your setup. And so you're having to get a stage 2 out, you're having to get 2 energy attachments, and you're not able to really play your hand out much further after you play your supporter. For that reason, I think that this might be overrated by other players. I'm going to say that it's not going to be as good as we think it is going to be. 240 HP is really strong, and that's good. So I'm not going to say that this is a sell, but I don't know that I can in good consciousness tell you to buy this yet either. I think this is something that if you get, hold it, and then if down the road it gets a little bit better, you're seeing it is seeing results, then maybe you could get it then. I don't expect it to jump up too high in price. Matter of fact, I only think there's one card in the set that will be expensive around the $20 mark for just the general art, and I think that's Rayquaza GX. We'll talk about that later. And then I also want to make mention of the GX attack. Shuffle one of your opponent's Pokemon and all cards attached to it. You can win the game with this attack. So if they only have that a Pokemon in the active and you use this GX attack, you can win the game. So there's that, but how often does that happen? I mean, most of the time you're probably just going to knock that out anyway. But I guess if it was a big GX, it could happen. But I don't know if that's enough to swing my opinion on it. I think it's a hold at best. I've got to tell you, I'm pretty pessimistic on this set. I don't think it's great. And I usually am pretty optimistic about new sets, but this is one that's just really kind of underwhelming. Masquerain, discard all special energies attached to your opponent's Pokemon in play. Hurricane Wind. Nobody's going to play that just to be able to discard energies. I think the Volbeat and the Illumise is neat. Pheromone Sign does 20 damage and then the opponent is confused. And then Volbeat, if your Illumise used Pheromone Sign during your last turn, this attack does 100 more. So I think that's kind of neat how they've paired these two together. But even with 20 and Confusion and 120 more, you're still going to need Choice Band and you still may not hit the numbers. So I wouldn't worry about that. Might be a fun deck to play in League, but I wouldn't. It won't see competitive play. Cacturne and Cacnea both have this ability. If you get attacked into, it's like a poison barb. So they would poison. And then Faint Circle, choose one of your opponent's Pokemon. This attack does 50 damage. Just 3 colorless for 50 wherever you want. It's again underwhelming. Tropius, find a friend. Search your deck for 2 Pokemon, reveal them, and put them into your hand. Then shuffle your deck. Unfortunately, if this was more like Dunsparce, where you could put them on your bench, this could see play, but I don't think it will because it's into your hand. However, because we've got Vulpix that can do it for free, which is better, and it's yeah, I think it's just better. Dhelmise is in the grass form. Again, nothing special. I'm going to keep moving on. Here's the first one that I would say is a buy and a hold. Buy this card, get this card. It's Magcargo. The ability Smooth Over. Once during your turn before you attack, you may search your deck for a card, shuffle your deck, and then place that card on top. It's half of a Mallow, but you don't have to use your supporter for the turn. And this will pair with Zoroark, but it might also pair with other things, like even Oranguru could make use of this. I think this is a really good card. I think you'll see this in Zoroark control decks. Tord used a Zoroark control deck at North America Internationals, and I think we could still see Zoroark performing control decks, and maybe even better now with Magcargo and Oranguru. So I think this is definitely, if you get it in pre-release, keep it. But if you don't, trade for it, buy it, go ahead and get it up front, because I do think this card may go up in value. Torchic, Combusken, Blaziken GX. Blaziken GX is kind of interesting because I think when with Ho-Oh and Blacksmith, that this card could see play in Expanded, but in Standard you won't see this card see play. Ho-Oh, remember, has the GX attack that says put I think it's 2, maybe even 3 fire Pokemon from your discard pile onto your bench. So you could literally battle compress Blaziken, a couple Blazikens, put them in the discard, and then use Ho-Oh's GX attack to bring them right to the bench. And at 240 HP, they're not going to be easy to knock out. Even for Zoroark GX with a Skyfield, I mean, Zoroark is still two-shotting it. So I think this is a good card to see play in Expanded. Explosive Kick does 210 damage, and then you got to discard 2 energies. But you can play Blacksmith and put them back on the following turn, and so you can just constantly be using that ability, that supporter, or you can even play Baby Volcanion to kind of charge up the Blazikens also. I think this card is probably a hold, maybe even a buy, but only if you see a lot of Expanded. Unfortunately, I don't think there's a lot of Expanded events except for maybe regionals. But if you do have a lot of Expanded events in your area, like League Cups and challenges, then I might recommend going ahead. If you're really like Fire, this might be a card for you to get. But for Standard, I just don't see how it can be effective. You can still use the idea of Ho-Oh to bring back your Blazikens, but the problem is how do you charge them up? 3 energies is just really, really hard. With Blacksmith, you can do it, but there's nothing real. I mean, you can Kiawe, but then you're wasting your turn. And in this format, we're just moving so fast that you don't have time to charge Blaziken up. So that's why I don't think you should get this if you're going to be playing mostly Standard this year. Torkoal, 30 damage, discard the top 4 cards of your deck. If you find any fire energy you discarded, attach them to your Pokemon any way you want. Like, I think this is designed to work with Blaziken to help get energy on your Blazikens, but I don't think it's good enough to warrant a buy. Oricorio, switch one of your opponent's bench Pokemon with their active Pokemon. The new active Pokemon is now Burning Confused. That's actually kind of cool. I could see a control deck using this, especially with Floatstone leaving, to bring stuff that has heavy retreat costs, getting them burned and confused, and then saying, okay, get out of the active, and you can bring them back each turn. That being said, I don't think I could tell you in good conscience to buy this card, but I will probably test this card a little bit, and later down the road, if I find a good deck for it's to use with it, I'll reveal that deck to you. But at this point in time, just let the experts who are building decks work on this one, and if you find out it's good down the road, then maybe pick it up. But I wouldn't worry about picking it up now. Articuno GX, I'm really disappointed in this card. I really wanted this card to be good, and I feel like legendaries in general just don't really get a lot of love. It's like Tapu Koko GX. The ability says, hey, when you put it down to your bench, you can move water energies to it and then put it in your active. But its attacks are just mediocre at best. 130 damage. Yes, that's good. That's a number that hits really well. But it's 2-hit KOing everything. You only have 170 HP. You have no choice band. Doesn't really help you. It puts you at 160, which is not a good number for the meta. Um, you lose Fighting Fury Belt, so that you can't prevent from getting two-shotted. Now at 170 HP, super easy to get knocked out. Um, I, I just maybe in Turbo Lapras you could see a one of this, but the GX attack isn't even good. Cold Crush, discard all energy from active Pokemon and from both active Pokemon, so you're gonna put one energy on this, and maybe you're going against Mega or Gardevoir GX, and they've got 5 energies on the Gardevoir. You can just get rid of all of them, but I don't think so, guys. I honestly think this is probably a sell if you get it in pre-release. Trade it for something better. All right, we're looking at Swampert. I know there's a lot of hype around this. Um, I'm not. I'm kind of feeling like a hold on this because I'm not. It's not proven yet. I do think it could see expanded play because of Archie's Ace in the Hole. And it's kind of like Zoroark GX, where you once per turn you can discard a card from your hand and then draw 3 cards. I think that's pretty cool, and maybe could see play with Magcargo. And then it's splashable if a stage 2 is splashable, in that it needs just 3 colorless energy and it does 80 damage. And then for each water energy attached, it does an additional 20 more. So if you have 3 waters on there, you're doing 80, 100, 120, 140. Choice band's 170. If you have a fourth energy on there, it's 190. So if you have a good way to charge it up, it could be powerful. The problem is I don't know if there's a really good way to power it up. I mean, yes, you've got Aqua Patches, but that's only going to get you 4 extra energies per game. Um, so, I don't know. I think this could see play in the right kind of deck, but I don't. But it being a stage 2 and having a 3 energy cost to attack makes me a little leery. And so for that reason, I'm going to say if you get any Swamperts, hold them and wait. Keep them around. Don't trade them. Don't sell them. But don't go out of your way to necessarily get them. If you get some in a pack, hold on to them, and we'll see how the card shapes up in the future. Ludicolo ability: once during your turn, you may draw a card. I don't know why this is any better than Alolan Sandslash. Um, 70 damage and the attack does 10 more for each Pokemon in play. I don't know, that's pretty decent. So if your opponent has 5, 6, and you have, I don't know, Ludicolo, I'm kind of liking. I think this card could see some play. At first I didn't like it, but 90 plus 70 is 160 with the choice band is 190. That is a number we want to hit. And the fact that you can draw more cards. And this could see play even in expanded with Seismitoad. I really like this. Yeah. Yeah, buy Ludicolo. If you come across Ludicolo, trade for him, get him. I think it's going to be a good card. Wailord, 200 damage. It's 220 HP, which is amazing for a stage 1. 200 damage minus 40 for each damage counter on this Pokemon. 4 energies to get it started. I guess you could play it as a mill deck, but I don't think so, guys. I think we should pass on that one. Sell, trade it away. Clamperl, Huntail, and Gorbis. We'll kind of put these all together. Evolutionary advantage. If you go second, this Pokemon can evolve during your first turn. And then Huntail is kind of interesting because for 1 water energy does 30 damage, and the defending Pokemon can't retreat. Dangerous Bite does 40 damage, but if it's a basic Pokemon, it does an additional 80, so 120 for a water and a double colorless. Not great. Gorbis does for water does 30 damage and then prevent all damage done to this Pokemon by evolution Pokemon. This could see some play, just because if there's a deck that's just all evolutions, it can just kind of stop them from doing anything. You can just auto win that way. However, there's a lot of basics, big basics, that are out there right now, between Rayquaza coming out and between Buzzwole and Duskmane and Dawn Wings, and it's just not the right time for Gorbis. However, that being said, I wouldn't, if you picked this up and held it for later, I would be okay with that. But I think in the current meta, it's not gonna see play um, this quarter, and it may not even see play this season. There may be a time where it could see play, though, when stage 1s and stage 2s get real big again. Even game, search your deck for a number of Pokemon, basic Pokemon, up to the number of your opponent's benched Pokemon, and play them onto your bench, and then shuffle your deck. This card could see some play, and the fact that it's splashable, it's colorless, I don't know, this is going to be like a new Bridget. Now, I know Dunsparce is also going to do something similar to this, but I think this could be really good in certain decks, especially if you really have to have a lot of setup. So, and especially if you go second. So Lovedesk could be a card that you want to consider. If you get it, hold it. And it's probably going to be super cheap, so if you really want to experiment with it, go ahead and get it. It shouldn't cost you very much. So I'm okay if you want to buy that. Regice, Ice Barrier. If this Pokemon is your active Pokemon, your opponent can't play any Stadium cards from their hand. This would be good if and only if the attack makes it worthwhile. Icy Wind 60 damage and your opponent's active Pokemon is now asleep. Unfortunately, I just don't think that this is strong enough to compete. 120 damage is easily knocked out by Zoroark and other Pokemon. So even though you can prevent them from playing a Stadium from their hand, I just don't think Stadiums are as relevant now as maybe in the past. And so I think Regice we have to pass on. Kyogre, I think, is a hold card. I think there are some situations where it could be pretty decent, especially with Aqua Patch, Dual Splash being one of them. This attack does 30 damage to 2 of your opponent's Pokemon for a water and a colorless. It's 130 HP, so it's a decent for a basic. And then Grand Wave does 120 damage. Of course, the Pokemon can't use Grand Wave during the next turn, but we play Guzma, so it can two-shot stuff. I think Kyogre is a decent water card to hold on to. And again, if you want to pick it up, I don't think it'll be too expensive. I wouldn't get, you don't even need a play set, maybe 1 or 2 of those at the very most. Electrode, Voltorb, first of all, as long as this Pokemon has energy attached to it, its retreat cost is 0. Why would you want to attach any energy to this unless you just absolutely needed to get it out of the active? So I don't know that that's that great. Electrode GX, now there's a lot of people saying that this is a great card that was used in the past, and it's very similar to that. I'm really struggling to figure out how to use it, at least in this format. Once during your turn before you attack, you may discard this Pokemon and all the cards attached to it. Counts as knocking out the Pokemon. If you do, search your discard pile for 5 energy cards and attach them to your non-GX and EX Pokemon. So there are some decks that I think this might be decent in. I mean, I guess Xerneas Break could see that, but it's leaving the format. In post-rotation, it'll be gone. And you have to give two energies, 2 prizes up to be able to use that. I just don't see how valuable that is. And then obviously the attacks. This is a card that's used mostly for its ability, its attack 50 damage, and then Crush and Burn 30 damage, 30 plus damage. You may discard as many energies you like to your Pokemon in play. If you do, this attack does 50 more damage for each one. So, I mean, you could discard a lot of energy and take a knockout, but you gave up, like, how did you get all the energy on there? Probably by having to use the ability, and you've given up 2 prizes anyway. To give up 2 prizes means that you have to swing the turns by more than 2 prizes. And I just don't see how it can be done at this point. That being said, I'm still going to put a hold on this card. If you get this card, don't trade it away. Just hold on to it, because this ability is still strong enough that somewhere down the road it could be very, very useful. And so for that reason, I'm going to put a hold on Electrode. Lantern has an interesting ability. You can use this ability once. Each time one of your Pokemon is knocked out by damage from an opponent's attack, choose a basic energy card attached to the knocked out Pokemon and move it to this Pokemon. It's kind of like a EXP share that you could even put an EXP share on Lantern and get 2 energies back. This could see play with Xerneas Break. I think this is neat for right now. In the short term, in the long term, it might see play with Rayquaza GX. So I think Lantern is a decent card. If you want to pick it up, go ahead and pick it up. I'm gonna probably hold on to any that I get. So yeah, I think it's a good card to grab. Manectric, on the other hand, I don't think is going to be great. Its ability is kind of neat. If you go second, you may play this card face down from your hand during setup. And then it allows you to charge up 2 basic energy cards from your hand to one of your benched Pokemon. The problem is, in theory, that looks great, but in practicality, it's not easy to do. First of all, you want to be winning the coin flip anyway, so you're probably gonna, I mean, you will go second from time to time, but then you gotta hope that you got him in your hand when you start, and then you gotta have a lightning energy plus 2 more so that you can actually take full advantage of the attack. So for that reason, I'm actually putting a sell on Manectric. Let other people overpay for it. Go ahead and just trade it away for other stuff that's better. Plusle and Minun, they're not really even worth considering. Oricorio, Sparkling Pom-Poms, this does 30 damage to each Pokemon GX and EX in play. Maybe that could see its play as a tech. So if you get one, you could hold on to it, but I don't think it's going to be all that valuable. Mr. Mime GX, I'm going to actually, most people are saying this is a really bad card. I'm not going to say it's a really good card, but if you get this, I'm going to say it's a hold. There may become a format where Mr. Mime is really good. We're actually getting the evens version, and then there is also an odds version. So basically, if this Pokemon would be damaged by an attack, prevent that attack's damage done to this Pokemon if that damage is 20, 40, 60, 80, all the way up to 260. So if it's an even number of damage up to 260 damage, this Pokemon can't be hurt. And then there's an odd one, and so depending on what your opponent is playing with will determine on if it can hurt you or not. Now you can play this with max potions and field blowers to make sure that they can't change the damage from odd to even with a choice band. And then if there was a way we could somehow give it protection, but I don't know that there is right now. 150 HP is kind of low, but I think this card could see some play in the future. And it even has Life Trick GX, which heal all damage from this Pokemon, so it's got a built-in max potion for itself. The attack isn't great. Count the number of cards in your opponent's hand. Put that many damage counters on your opponent's active Pokemon. If they have 5 cards in hand, you're going to be able to do 5 damage counters on the active Pokemon. So nothing great, but it is one of these decks that could just wall and slowly chip away at your opponent. So I'm actually putting a hold on Mr. Mime. If you get a Mr. Mime, then by all means hold on to it. Gulpin, Squallett, nothing. Those are all cells. Lunatone, as long as you have Solrock in play. Each player's fire Pokemon has no abilities. I don't know if that comes in play at this moment in time. Most of the time, Lunatone and Solrock have not been good, so I wouldn't worry about them too much. Bayonet, I want to look at these, both the regular and the GX. The regular is a 90 HP. When you play this card from your hand to evolve, you may play a basic Pokemon from your opponent's discard pile to their bench. So this is kind of like Target Whistle. I guess it could be good in some circumstances, but I think in general, Target Whistle isn't even seeing much play in Expanded, and I don't know ideally what it would be good for. I guess if you wanted to put something on the bench that could be KO'd real easy and you got a Guzma, you could knock it out. I remember when Shaman was around, it was real easy to knock out Shaman, so we want to Target Whistle a Shaman back on. But even Tapu Lele, Target Whistling a Tapu Lele back, it's 170 HP. If you can take the knockout, then by all means, I guess it's worth it. But is it worth putting this evolution in your deck to be able to do that? That's the big question. And I say no. So I'm going to say this is a sell. And I know a lot of people are hyping Banette GX, but I'm going to just tell you right now, I think this is a sell also. Shady move. Once during your turn, before you attack, if this Pokemon is your active, you may move 1 damage counter from either player's Pokemon to another Pokemon, yours or your opponent's. You know, I'm kind of thinking, whoop-de-doo, that's 10 damage. If you retreat into another one, you can move 20. But it's only 190 HP stage 1. And Shadow Chant, 30 damage. This attack does 10 more damage for each supporter card in your discard pile. You can't add more than 100 damage in this way. The only problem is there's not a lot of supporters you're going to be using. We're moving more to an item-based format. So, you know, if you play, even if you play 10 draw supporters and 4 Guzmas, that's 14. And you start, so when you have 7, you top out, well, I guess you can, if you have 10 of those 14 in the discard pile. But we all know good and well by the end of the game, how many have we put in the discard pile? Maybe, if it's a long game, maybe we've gone to 10. But most of the time it's not. And then you're only doing 130 damage for 1 Psychic. I guess if we're using it as a tech against particular cards, maybe Malamar, Psychic Malamar decks, this could be potentially good. And it is weak to dark, so that may be part of the reason why it's being hyped. But I just don't see it. Tomb Hunter GX, put 3 cards from your discard pile into your hand. I just feel like the damage output is, even though it's only 1 Psychic, the damage output is just too weak to be useful. And with Zoroark going around, Zoroark's going to destroy it. So, I don't know. I'm going to say this is super overhyped right now. Sell it and then later on down a couple months from now, when it's dropped down to $1 or $2 and you want to invest in it then if you want to play around with it. I don't think it'll ever see much good play. We have 3 Deoxys. I don't really want to go through all of them because most of them really are bad. The only one worth looking at is this one. It's 120 HP. It's kind of like Mewtwo that was in Evolutions. It has a double colorless, does 20 damage, and then attack does 20 more damage for each energy attached to your opponent's active Pokemon, just like Mewtwo from Evolutions. Only problem is it's actually 10 HP less. However, its second attack can be teched inside of Malamar decks, and it does 120 damage for 2 Psychic and a colorless, and then you have to discard 1 energy from it. So I do think Deoxys could see play just in Zoroark decks as a like a Mewtwo to hurt Buzzwole, to hurt other Psychic types. But it also could be seen in Malamar as a replacement for Hoopa, the Psychic version Hoopa. So this, I would say, get this card if you can. Trade for it, buy it if you need to. Probably won't be very expensive. The other Deoxyses, I can't imagine a reason why you'd want to use them. This one is superior in all honesty. So I would just get the one. Alright, next one is Lunala. Shadow Shield is the ability if this Pokemon has Psychic Energy attacks, it takes 20 less damage, so it's like a pressure Mewtwo, but it has a requirement of a Psychic Energy being on it. It's 160 HP, so that would mean that they would need 180 damage to OHKO it. So that's pretty good for Psychic, Psychic, Psychic. Full Moon Ray, 80 damage. This attack does 20 more damage for each energy attached to your opponent's active Pokemon. As much as this looks cool and everything, Lunala just hasn't seen much play. It's a stage 2, and I don't see how you can fit it in with Malamar. I mean, you probably could, but it would be a very tight squeeze. So instead of playing Lunala, I'd just say sell it, trade it off. Onix, we'll get to Onix. Evolves into I can't remember the metal type. We'll get to that in a minute. Phanpy and Donphan. I really love Donphan. I like that it saw some resurgence in expanded. Unfortunately, that expanded version of Donphan is better than this version. They actually, you always hear about power creep, but this Donphan actually got nerfed. Flail, it's kind of cool for 10 damage times the number of damage counters on this Pokemon, but you only have 130 HP, so it is the most damage you could do is 120 plus a choice band, 150. So that's not great. Rapid Spin, 50 damage, switch this Pokemon with one of your bench Pokemon. Then your opponent switches theirs with their active Pokemon. Without strong energy in the format, this isn't great. And it expanded. The other Donphan is just better. One thing to note is grass. It has a grass weakness. So you could potentially play one of these in the old Donphan. I say that really reluctantly just because it has a different type of weakness, but I'm not sure how good it would be. So for that, I'm just going to say this is a sell. Don't worry about getting Donphan. Larvitar and Pupitar, we'll talk about their evolution when we get to the dark types. Meditite and Medicham. Medicham for 2 fighting energies. Enlightened Strike does 10 damage, and if this Pokemon HP is 30 or less, this attack does 160 more. And we will talk about a new belt that could go on here. So you could do 170 plus 60. You could do 230. However, it's so gimmicky. Do not invest in this card. It's just not. I mean, as fun as I want that thing to work, it's just not good. I could say in expanded, if you put a focus sash on this thing and then use this attack, that could be really good. But in standard, it's not good, and I wouldn't even I wouldn't invest in it. Baltoy and Claydol, fighting types. I don't think there's anything about them that makes them any special. Regirock, here is a buy, people. This is a card you want to get. Alright, this card we'll see play in Worlds format, I believe. I think it'll slot into Buzzwole, but I think it'll see good play even after Buzzwole and after Strong Energy not after Buzzwole leaves, but after Strong Energy leaves. Enhanced Stomp for 1 fighting does 20 damage. That's nothing special. But if this Pokemon has a Pokemon tool attached, it does an additional 20 more damage. Now, with Strong Energy, that goes from 20 to 40 to 60. And with a Choice Band is 90. And with Diancie is 110. So for 1 Strong Energy, Regirock can do 110 damage in the current format. Now, if we take the current format out of here and we just play post-rotation where there's no strong energy, you're still looking at 90 damage for 1 energy. That is amazing, okay? Now, Baby Buzzwole can do 30, 50, 70, 30, 60. It could do 80. But I don't know. I think Regirock could be good, and it has a couple other synergies with it. With the Regis, there's previous Regis that have seen play. I don't know. I just think that this is a card you should not sleep on. I think you should get this, and I think it can be really good. So I'm putting a buy on that card. Groudon Groudon for a fighting colorless colors does wreck. 50 damage if there's a stadium card in play. This does 50 more damage. and then ground slash 130 damage, and then discard 1 energy from this Pokemon. I don't really think it's great. I know that it saw play with an Oranguru control deck, but I'm not even really sure why you would put Groudon in there unless he's specifically trying to counter a particular card. Palossand GX, we've been wondering about when we were going to get this for a long time. It evolves from Sandygast, and we get Eerie Light, 60 damage for a fighting color colorless, and your opponent's confused. I don't know, that seems kind of high for 60 damage and confusion. Life Absorb for fighting colorless does 100 damage and then heal 20 from this Pokemon. I don't know. I don't think that's great. Fighting colorless Sandfear GX, 60 damage. Look at the top 13 cards of your opponent's deck. Discard as many Pokemon you find there as you like. This attack does 60 damage for each Pokemon you discarded. Maybe it could be good, but I don't know. Sell this. Just if you get it, trade it, sell it away before it becomes pointless. Meteor, once during your turn before you attack, if this card is in your hand and you have room on your bench, you may play this card as an active Pokemon and move your old active Pokemon to your bench. This could see some play. I might pick up 1 or 2 of these just because I think this might have some relevance in some way. But that being said, it's probably not going to see much play, so I don't know. Alolan Raticate, I'm actually going to put a hold on this card. I don't necessarily think it's a buy, but I think that this card, potentially when Buzzwole kind of lessens and it's not as big, this card could see some play as a disruption type deck. It requires no energy, so it does 40 damage times the number of cards you discard up to 2 per turn. So you can do 80 damage with a choice band. You're doing 110 damage with no energy absolutely at all. And then you can use crushing hammers and max potions and all sorts of things to keep it healthy, and also to deny your opponent cards, energy. So I think this could see play in a disruption style deck, and run no energy at all. So I'm putting a hold on this. If you get this card, I would hold it if I was you. Sneasel, nothing special. Tyranitar was from the Larvitar and Pupitar before. However, I don't want to spend... This is a stage 2 that's just not worth it, so we're going to pass. This Sableye could see some play, and I'd put a hold on this, maybe even a buy. Once during your turn, you may look at the card on top of your deck, put that card on the top of your deck, or discard that card. So there are some cases where discarding a card could be useful. If you're playing Malamar, you want to have an energy that you can discard, and if it's on the top of your deck, you can look at it. If it's a good card, then by all means keep it on top. If not, discard it. Or maybe you're dead drawing and you need to be able to see what the next card is, see if it's a supporter or not. So it's not, you discard it, and you at least it lets you see a few more cards of your deck. It's probably going to see play in some deck. I just don't know what deck it is yet. And Disable is not bad either. 10 damage for a colorless, so it makes it splashable. Choose one of your opponent's active Pokemon's attack. They can't use that attack during your opponent's next turn. Oh, you've got a Zoroark in the active. You can't use Riotous Beating next turn. Oh, you can't attack me next turn. So there are definitely situations for that, and I would probably hold on to this and maybe even get a couple. Steelix, 190 HP. Tail Crash for a metal colorless, 80 damage, and it can potentially do up to 120. It is a whopping 190 damage, 190 HP. So it is interesting, but it's got 4 retreat. I don't know, guys. I'm thinking just sell that if you get it. I don't think it could see some play, but I don't think it'll be all that great. Scizor GX, this is a hold. I don't think it's going to be good right now. Does 80 damage for a metal and a colorless, and then your opponent's attacks do 30 less damage to it. And then the GX attack does 100 damage, and if it's an evolved Pokemon, it does 100 more. So you can do 200 with a choice band, can do 230 to evolved Pokemon. So it's kind of interesting. However, the ability, as long as this Pokemon's remaining HP is 100 or less, this Pokemon's attacks do 80 more damage. So now this first attack does 160 with a choice band, could do 190, which is a good number. And the second attack could do potentially 260. So with a choice band, that is. I'm sorry, no, it could potentially do 300 and some damage. So with that being said, I don't know that this is the right format, but I do think that this card could see play in the future. So I'm putting a hold on it. You might find that it drops in price a little bit, and then you could buy it. But I don't know that I necessarily buy it right at this moment. Metagross, just because I'm running short on time, I'm already at 46 minutes. Don't buy. This is a sell. It's terrible. Don't use it. Registeel could see some play. It's a hold. Jirachi Prism Star. This is probably the worst, one of the worst Prism Stars I've seen. Wish Upon a Star. You can use this ability during your turn. If you take this card as a face-down prize card before you put it in your hand, and if you have room on your bench, play this Pokemon onto your bench, and then take another prize card. The only problem is putting it, getting it into your prizes, and then being able to select it at random. Just the odds are so slim to do that, and it's like, do I really want to waste one of my card slots on this? And then the attack for triple colorless, 10 damage. It's now asleep. At the end of your opponent's next turn, the defending Pokemon is knocked out. We just know that with Guzma in the format, it's so easy to get out of those kind of effects on your Pokemon. So I say sell it. If you get it, if you want to collect the Prism Stars like I'm doing, I'm collecting all the Prism Stars. Get one, but I don't ever think it'll see play. Heatran, first attack just helps you find energy to attach to Heatran. The second attack is Armor Tackle for 4 energies, 120 damage, and then it does 30 to itself. It's a sell. Don't get that card. Solgaleo, if this Pokemon has any metal energy, it has no weakness. Rising Dash, 130 damage. The attack isn't affected by resistance. Still not good. It's still a stage 2. It's still a lot of resources into a Pokemon. It's just not that great. Celesteela, this is definitely a buy card. 140 HP for a basic. Wow. 5 energies and it does 160 damage. But here's the kicker. It's Moonraker. If the total of both players' remaining prize cards is 6, the attack cost just a metal is all. So if you can do it, time it just right, Moonraker can do 190 damage for a single metal energy. Now, I get that it's situational, but in Beast Box, it's another card that can sit on your bench. So I highly, highly, highly recommend you buy that card. Kartana, on the other hand, is just not cutting it. It's only 60 HP. Kamikaze does 40 damage for 2 metals. And if your opponent has 6 prizes, it goes to 130. Just not great. Stick with Kartana GX. That's a very good card to have in Beast Box, but Kartana is not. Another card to have in Beast Box is Stakataka GX. 180 HP, but because of Ultra Raw, any damage done to your Ultra Beast by an opponent's attack is reduced by 10, so it effectively has 190 HP. Naganadel with one of these has 220 HP. With 2 of them has 230 HP. However, I think probably 1 or 2 is the absolute most you want to put into a deck. I guess you could put 4 in there and have a Naganadel with an effective HP of 250. But the retreat cost on these guys are 3, and with no float stone in the format, I feel like this could become a liability instead of a help. So I think maybe one or two of these, but I definitely would buy this card. I would get a couple of them and be ready to use them in Beast Box. I think Beast Box, if it can find a way to answer Rayquaza GX, or if the meta shifts in such a way that Rayquaza isn't as good, that Beast Box will shine as one of the best decks in format. All right, we got Salamence here. It's a sell once during your turn. If this Pokemon is your active Pokemon, you may switch one of your opponent's bench Pokemon with their active Pokemon. But it has a retreat cost of 3, so it's like, how do I get, if I put it in the active, how do I get it out of the active? And its attack isn't worth powering up, so that is a sell. However, these Prism Stars are both buys. We'll talk about Latias first. It's a must card that must see play with Rayquaza GX, which we'll get to shortly. Dream Mist does 30 damage, and then attach a basic energy card from your discard pile to each of your basic dragon Pokemon on the bench. So the idea is you use Rayquaza to discard stuff, put energies in the discard pile. Then you use Latias to put energies back to those Rayquazas. Just a really solid card. Even if you get behind, this card can come up and get energies on maybe 2 or 3 of your Rayquazas, and you can just be going back to town. We'll talk about Rayquaza in just a minute, but before we do, let's move to Latios Prism Star. This also is a buy. 140 HP for a double colorless, does 50 damage times the number of Dragon Evolution Pokemon you have in play. This card will see play with cards like Altaria GX from the next set, or Noivern GX from previous sets. This will give you a chance to take major knockouts, and when Altaria GX and the baby Altaria come out, you'll easily could be able to do 200, 250, 280 damage or more. With the Altarias each buffing you, you could easily do 300 with this card. So this card will be great, and if they don't have a way to answer it, you can sometimes just sweep games with this card. So even though it's not going to see play right now, I say go ahead and get it, buy it now, so that when Altaria comes out, that you'll see play with it. Rayquaza GX, this is the ultimate buy. This is the card you should be getting. This is probably the best card in the set. Stormy Winds, when you play it from your hand, you discard 3 cards from your deck. If there's any energy in the discard pile, you can attach it to the Rayquaza you just benched. And then Dragon Break for a colorless lightning and grass does 30 damage times all the grass, basic grass and lightning on the field. This card I've tested with already. Easily I've seen turn 2s where you're hitting 210. I've seen turn 3s where you're hitting 270, 290, or 300 or higher. This card is a problem, I think. I think it's terrible design, to be honest with you. But because it is so good, it is a card you need to get. And the GX attack for a grass, discard your hand and draw 10 cards. Also another great GX attack. So that is a buy. Get it. It will be super strong. If you can't afford it, then make sure you play a deck that can counter it. Dunsparce, Strike and Run. Search your deck for 3 basic Pokemon, put them on your bench, and then shuffle your deck. If you put any Pokemon on your bench, you may switch this with one of your bench Pokemon. The cool thing is if you can get this to work, this could be really good. I'm putting a buyout on this because this will be the new Bridget in attack form, and I think it's really solid for evolution decks that are trying to set up. And this might even be good in something like Gardevoir. So yeah, I think this is a card you should be buying. Pelipper is nothing. Slaking has got an ability Lazy. As long as this Pokemon is your active Pokemon, your opponent's Pokemon have no abilities. I want to put a hold on this, but only because the control player in me says that this card might someday be good. That being said, I've got to be honest with you, I don't know that it'll ever be good. So if you don't ever want to buy it, or if you get it and trade it away, I won't be disappointed with you. But I will probably try to make this work, and we'll see if we can make it work. But it is a stage 2. Everything else, Delcatty is a buy. When you play this card from your hand to evolve a Pokemon, during your turn, you may search your discard pile for 2 supporters, reveal them, and put them in your hand. It's a double VS Seeker. You need to get it. Kecleon is a hold. It'll be C play. Now we go into the supporters and trainer cards. I'm going to go real quickly. Acrobike, if you don't already have them from previous sets, this is a buy card. Get it. Get 4 of them. Get a play set. Apricot Maker. Search your deck for 2 item cards with ball in their name. This is terrible. Don't get it. It's a sell. Beast Ball, get a couple just because you never know. It might see play. Bill's Maintenance, shuffle a card into your deck and then draw 3 cards. No, don't get that. That's terrible. I don't know why they make supporters like this. Don't get that. That's terrible. Sell. Copycat, get a playset of Copycat. It's probably the best supporter that we've got coming out of this set. Energy Recycle System, a lot of people are saying this is a bad card. Get a playset of this card. Trust me, somewhere down the road you'll wish you had it. Go ahead and get a playset. It won't be expensive, so just go ahead and buy it. Energy Switch, you should probably already have a playset of those anyway. Fisherman is a reprint. If you have them, keep them. If you don't, I don't think you necessarily have to buy them, but there may be somewhere down the road where Fisherman could be helpful. Friend Ball, I don't think it's very good, but I would still get a couple just because you never know. How, draw 3 cards, not relevant. Hiker, look at the top 5 cards of either of your deck or your opponent's deck and choose 1 card, shuffle the remaining cards, and then put this on top. No. Mallow is 100 times better, and unless you're trying to keep your opponent from I mean, if you're playing a hand control deck, maybe this could see play, but I don't think so. Hustle Belt, if you have 30 HP or less, this becomes, then attacks do 60 more damage. And Last Chance Potion, if you have 30 HP or less, heal 120 damage. These are so situational and so hard to fit into a situation that I'd never want to buy these. So no, sell those. Life Herb, choose one of your Pokemon, remove all special conditions and 6 damage counters if you get heads from a flip. No, don't get that. Licia is a hold. It could see play depending on how many more Prism Stars we get. Lure Ball, I mean, why not get a couple of those? Mask Royale, maybe. I could see some situations where this could see play. Attach a basic energy card from your hand to one of your stage 2 grass, fire, or water Pokemon. Pokemon Nav, I don't really see anything special about that. Rainbow Brush is a hold. Shrine of Punishment is a buy. Definitely buy that card. Sky Pillar is a buy. Steven Resolve is a hold. Super Scoop Up you should already have. Switch you should already have. Tate and Lisa is a hold. TV Reporter is a sell. Underground Expedition is a sell. And Rainbow Energy is obviously something you should have. That's a staple. Have 4 of those. Anyway, here are the full arts of the GXs we already went through. I still barely kept it under an hour, guys, but there's just a lot in the set. So I didn't spend as much time on the trainer supporters. Just trust me, there's some that are really bad in this set, so don't worry about getting everything there. However, trainer cards typically are really cheap, so if you get a whole playset of everything, I won't be disappointed. I plan on doing it anyway, even though there's some that I'll never use. Anyway, guys, that's all I have for you. Hope you enjoyed this. Hit like, subscribe, and comment below telling me what your favorite card from this set is. PokeDad signing out. We'll talk to you later. Bye.